to Alternative Smallholding. It is the 30th of November and it is really early in the morning, but I had to come up here on this beautiful, beautiful frosty day to film our November tour because it is just magnificent. It's so pretty. So I've left Rue in bed and the bearded dude is currently looking after Mogwai because she's been sick and she's asleep on his lap. So I thought I'd tog up warm and come over here and show you around whilst everything is really frosty and gorgeous. The weather has been horrible as always, but we haven't had rain for 2 days, and I tell you what, I will take this weather over rain any day. I think it's about -3 with a feel factor, as in it feels like -4, -5. But this coat is really warm. I've got my hat, and well, let's have a quick look around. So this end of the plot hasn't changed very much. I haven't taken down all of the remnants of the beams off this frame yet. We've got this bed ready to go, but we still need to take out what's left of these raised beds and then fill those up into another bed. So, ooh, I'm tripping over a stool. So this will all look very different very soon. Something that is nice is now that the ground's frozen, it's not slippy, so that's always a bonus. So I don't think we've got any garlic coming up yet. This is the garlic bed, and in fact we do have some garlic coming up. One here, and I just spotted another one as well. There's one here. They'll all come up with time. Right now I don't blame them if they want to stay down there and be nice and snug and warm. Hopefully they haven't all rotted off in this rain that we've been having. But now the ground's frozen, hopefully it'll give them that cold snap that they need and then they'll go. So the fruit beds here are just the same as before. We haven't had a chance to move any of this yet, but it will all soon be moving to the top of the plot. We need is a couple of good weekends where it hasn't rained for say Thursday and Friday, and then on Saturday and Sunday we can really crack on. Well, as long as it's not as icy as this anyway. That junk pile looks terrible, doesn't it? Well, it's not a junk pile. It is the remnants of the raised beds that we've taken up, a fallen over chair, and the bamboo canes and that, and the Polytunnel, which we will be moving. But again, we need to wait until the ground is safer to work, because I don't want to be carrying lots of heavy things between the two of us and then slip down. This herb bed is pretty much going to sleep now. Some of them are falling over. Ones like this that have gone to seed, I'm not removing them until spring because the bugs and the birds need the little seeds. So although it may look messy, it's more for nature than for me at this time of year. Doesn't that look beautiful? That is the onion bed that doesn't have any onions in. Well, so far it's been too wet to work this ground. So if I don't get these in by, well, in a couple of weeks really, there's not going to be that much point in doing so. So instead I'll just plant spring onions, which isn't ideal. It's not how I like to do it, because I like onions to be in autumn and then they come out of the bed earlier, so I can use the bed again in early summer. But if that's the way it's going this year, that's the way it's going. We've got to be adaptable. It's been a weird year for weather, and we can't push it. We can't make it do what we want it to. So we'll just work with what we've got. So the onion bed is a weed bed. I do have some good sprouts though. They are coming up to ours on Christmas Day. I need to peel some of the leaves back on those, but over that way you can see it's virtually emptied out. We've been taking the plants and feeding them to the chickens because they had no real sprouts on, but the tops, they like to eat those. So the brassica bed isn't looking great, but it does have food in it. Look at the kale. Isn't it pretty? So here is where we actually start to see some difference. So we had a currant bush here, a currant bush there. There's still a little currant bush here that I need to take out. And then that was that huge apple tree that spread all across here. Now what we've decided is we don't need that apple tree. It produced tiny apples that, although they were sweet, they required a lot of processing and they looked horrid, to be honest. The tree was just in the way. It's too close to the other tree next to it, and that one is not growing in the right way because it had that tree in its way. Does that make any sense? You know what I mean. So what we've done is we have cut it back and we're going to dig it out, and then we're either going to replace it with, say, a pear tree or a cherry tree, but a bit further in, or we're going to plant more rhubarb there. So the space will be used, and I did feel awful cutting that down, but there's no point in having things on your plot when you've got limited space that aren't going to be of use to you. It's better to make use of the space and chop down an apple tree. I do feel bad about it, but the space will be used. So what you can see now is that's really opened up that area from the red currant bush at that end all the way across to the apple tree here. The path, I'm standing on it now here, will go straight up to where that currant bush is, and then it'll go up to the top of the plot. So at least we've started to get the path area sorted, and it means we're not walking on the paths that go down the side of the plots all the time, making them really, really soggy. So if we have different paths that we can use, it reduces the wear and tear on the main paths. And those main paths aren't just used by us, they're also used by our plot neighbours on either side. So it's a bit selfish of us to just completely wear those down. So I do have a surprise though, and this was a surprise to me. So I'm going to turn you around and show you this. I'm really pleased. Look what we've got. And they're popping up everywhere. So it seems the mouse didn't take all of our broad beans after all, which is great. You can definitely see the patch that they have taken them out of. So in the centre there's about a 2 foot square piece where they'd taken up all of those beans, which is no problem, I'll just replace them. But I am really pleased that at least we've got some plants growing in there. Broad beans come early summer, good to go. Bean arch still needs clearing. That ground still needs weeding. I don't care today. I do think it all looks beautiful regardless when it's covered in frost or snow, doesn't it? This bed here, that's the sweet corn bed. That's where in our last compost video we covered it in some horse manure that we dug out of our compost bays. Last year's sweet corn was fantastic. Couldn't have asked for a better crop. So it was fed with that same horse manure, so I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that means we're going to get a good crop again this year. You never know, one year something's good, another year it's bad. That's just how it goes, but we can only hope, eh? That sweet corn was delicious. Well, it is delicious. We've got a freezer full of it. That's the chicken manure pile. Should have covered it didn't have any plastic, meant to come back and do it, completely forgot. It looks like Mr. Foxy or somebody has been digging around in it a little bit, but that's fine. That will be going in a green wheelie bin because our council doesn't collect those anymore, so we're going to use that for the chicken manure. And this bed from here all the way up to that line there, that's all going to be tomatoes. So I think that they will appreciate this chicken manure. I hope so anyway. We've put a fence in here finally, so they are actually staked in. We're hoping to put a little gate in there, and then this is all going to be our seating area where those chairs are now. So from the cold frame down to here, that'll be a little flower bed. We'll keep the cold frame, but a little path, and then this whole area where the table and everything is right now, this will all be slabbed properly. That lot, as messy as it looks, that's loads of leaves that we collected from the farm last weekend and more manure. That all needs sorting out. We've got lots and lots of leaf bags that we need to shred because the leaves are rather big leaves. So what we want to do is put those in the big black bin and then get the fly mower streamer in there and chop them up a little bit. We don't have a petrol mower, otherwise I'll just put them on the floor and mow over them, but that will do as a substitute, and then we can get making leaf mould for this year. I can't wait to do a good tidy up. These on here, some of them are a couple of spent chilli plants that I still haven't tipped out, and then those are all cuttings, and there's some seed trays and something I was supposed to have planted. It's toad flax actually. That'll come back there, that's not a problem. These are our potatoes for the Christmas reveal, and I can see one there, but it is, can you hear? That's rock solid. They should be in the greenhouse. I don't know why they're not in the greenhouse. I'll put them in before I go. Speaking of greenhouse, let's go inside and see what those seedlings are doing. It got down to -2 degrees C last night, which is 28 Fahrenheit. I love that it shows you that quickly. There you go. It's currently 2.5 in here. These seedlings are coming on much better than I expected. I've taken the cover off a couple. I've taken the cover off a couple of them because somebody mentioned to me about once they've germinated, taking the cover off to prevent dampening off because of the condensation that performs in the propagator. But I didn't take it off because of that. I took it off because, quite frankly, the mice have been having a dig around. Look at my poor spinach. Look at it. It's all been dug up. All on the surface now. Under here is the rocket, but we've not had any movement on that. This is the head lettuce, so iceberg lettuce, and we are getting some germination. The radishes are doing well, as are these. I'm really pleased with these, and they don't look frozen at all, so I will be putting the propagator lid back on because that's obviously doing a good job at protecting them. And then this loose leaf lettuce at the back as well is doing okay. Pleased. And that, they've got a couple germinating, but again, a couple been dug up. And no movement on the leeks, but we do seem to have a couple of radish seeds in there for some reason. So considering how cold it is, they look nice and happy and snug in their trays. And the greenhouse is doing a good job at keeping the temperature relatively okay. I'm going to clear it now. It's currently 3.8 in here, it's warmed up a little bit already. And then I'll check it tomorrow and see what it goes down to tonight, because we're due another good frost, which I don't mind at all. Well, I'm going to close that back up, keep those nice and snug, and we'll continue our tour. Compost bays, haven't done anything with them since the last video. I will cover it all up so that we don't get all the nutrients washed away, and that side I'm not planning on touching for a little while because that's where the frogs are, and they are all protected under there right now. The carpet that was on this compost bay when we got it is underneath all of that stuff, all the cardboard, but the frogs are using it, so I'm not disturbing them. aren't. That's their little house. So I asked in my compost making video, do you use weed membrane underneath your compost heap? Now, as I said, when we got this plot, this compost bay has weed membrane at the bottom. One moment. Now, we didn't put it there and we didn't know it was there until we dug down to dig out the compost and manure that was already in there. Now, I actually do want to remove it. A lot of you have said, like, why, you know, they don't put weed membrane at the bottom, the worms need to go up. There are actually loads of worms in there, so that isn't a main concern. Now, obviously there would be a lot more if it didn't have the weed membrane, so I do want to get that out. So next time I turn that compost, and when the frogs are a bit more movable, I will take the weed membrane out. So I'm glad that we're all thinking the same, that it shouldn't be there. Right, plot 2, also known as baby plot. This bed is covered, and got some lovely ice puddles on here, but that's ready to go for next year. That will be from, say, here across there will be flowers, and I'm going to get a row or two of tomatoes in there. This side will all be tomatoes as well. And this greenhouse, we've had a bit of a decision made on what we're doing with it. Now, if you've been following us for a while, you'll know that this is an alternate greenhouse, which basically translates to about £3,500 of greenhouse, but we got it for free. It was on our old vegetable site, which was miles from here and we couldn't get to, so we gave it up. And we moved it here, and we had it in one spot, but when we decided we wasn't going to put it up there, we were going to move it, but nothing's happened with it yet because the ground hasn't been prepped. Now, what we've decided to do is we've inspected this frame, and we don't actually think that the frame anymore will hold the weight of the glass. So we're going to take the glass out and we're going to erect the frame, and then we're going to put plastic over it. So essentially we're going to turn it into a polytunnel. That means that it's not being wasted and we still get to keep it, but it's not going to fall down on us, which is going to be good. I've got to stand up. I'm kneeling in the frost and my knee is like, oh! But I'm happy that we've come to a decision as to what to do with it, because I was concerned that we was just going to waste it, or that when we did put it up, it would just fall down again. But without the weight in there, it's going to still be a productive polytunnel that we can use. So that's good. My beautiful comfrey has all died back now. I'm going to leave those there. That'll be shelter for bugs and critters for over the winter, and then in the spring I'll take off all of those dead stems. During the summer, people ask me why I don't chop my comfrey back so that it gets second flush of it, and the reason is because of the bees. The bees absolutely adore those flowers, and I don't want to be chopping it back just to make extra things for me. It's a huge plant, so I'll just leave it and it does us fine. Now, I do need to dig up a piece of that root because I've got to send it to one of you guys, but as you can see, that's not happening today. So hopefully in the next week it will warm up a little bit more in the mornings, and then I can come over and get a piece, or in the afternoon. So yeah, they are still potatoes. We've got virtually 2 rows of them still in the ground. They're not going to be nice potatoes, and that's not just because they've been left in. When we did take them up initially, when they was ready to harvest, they were horrible. They had big holes in them, they were totally slugged, and just the crop was actually really, really bad. So we wasn't inclined to dig them up when we had other jobs that we needed to be doing in those short spaces of time when it wasn't raining. But they do need to come up. If we don't, then come next year we're going to have rows and rows of unwanted potatoes, and this is where the polytunnel is going to go. So from here all the way down to where that greenhouse is, this is going to be my polytunnel. And in my polytunnel, that is going to be my big cooking tomatoes, hopefully, and some peppers, and all my big tomatoes. I've got some massive tomato seeds from some world record breaking tomatoes, so I'm really looking forward to growing those next year. I don't imagine I'm ever going to break any records, but it's going to be great fun to try. Rue's strawberry bed is still underneath those greenhouse panes, and the wildlife area, especially at this time of year, is not going to be touched. Just leave it be, let the little critters hide away. So yeah. So this plot, the baby plot or the half plot, when it is in production next year, which it will be, it doesn't look it now, but it will be, this will basically mostly be tomatoes and strawberries and some flowers as well. I'm looking forward to getting that greenhouse sorted and back in use, and getting everything looking like someone loves it again. So that was it for our November plot tour on this beautiful, beautiful frosty day. I hope you've enjoyed walking around with me. I'm not actually that cold at all. It's just been really nice and peaceful. So I'm going to go home now. There's nothing else I can do here, but I'm glad that I came over whilst it was all quiet and still really frosty before the sun breaks through the clouds, which it looks like it's trying to do over there now. So yeah, thanks for joining us. I'm Jazz. This is Alternative Smallholding. If you're not subscribed, please do consider doing so, and we will see you all soon. Take care, keep warm, or obviously on the other side of the world, keep cool. And we'll see you all soon. Bye bye.